Welcome to Chris and Jen in the Morning.
Where it's always morning somewhere. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen.
And I am coming to you from under my Christmas tree.
And I am coming to you from my undecorated house on December 14th. Because while I always have used time as an excuse, time has never been the issue. That's not it. It's not that. So I'm going to get my Christmas tree up at some point before Christmas comes, at least one of them. And maybe I'll send you a plane ticket to do a quick in and out and just decorate my house.
Just throw some decorations up real quick.
Probably cheaper than hiring a decorator.
Probably for sure. Probably for sure.
Probably for sure. Your totes probably right.
Okay.
But if I don't make that happen, I'm super excited that I do get to spend more time with you because we are going to be at Podfest in Orlando in mid-January together.
We sure are. We're going to be there together.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
The producer behind that makes all the magic happen,
all of it,
Ace, will also be there.
Yes. Because what would we be without Ace?
Obnoxious.
We would not be Chris and Jen in the Morning without Ace. It is a trio, that's for sure. And I am so excited because this episode we're going to talk about this year and everything that we've learned. I have my very own list right here, which I have not shared with you yet.
No, it's going to be a total surprise.
I'm also excited to see what you come up with and also how you feel about what I've come up with and whether we have the same things on our list. I'm betting one of them we do.
Oh, I'm for sure we have some overlapping things. And I do think like the whole topic of today came up based on this idea. I would say like a marrying of kind of what you and Ace were kind of putting together, kind of like a look back, but also like what are those areas that we've talked about that have remained relevant, not just in our lives, but in the lives of people who may be listening. And I think, really hearkening back to, we talked about the, gift giving in this time of year. And as I was really thinking about this past year and this journey that the three of us have been on, like we have expanded our knowledge, not just based on podcasting, but in the things that we're talking about. Like we have researched, we have looked into, so that way we bring something a little bit more deep and meaningful than just our like quippy things to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this has been an adventure in learning and growth from like being in front of a camera, which is like my least comfortable thing to do. But here I've been doing it all year long. So
yeah,
that's something for figuring out how to have a conversation that other people would actually want to listen to versus, being all over no, we're still all over the place, but you get what I'm saying here.
Yes.
And then also just as we talk about the things that matter to us, we've been on this journey of self-exploration and growth. And so I think it's just been an incredible year. It has felt throughout the year like not an incredible year many times. But when I look back, I think it really just has been an incredible year, a very amazing experience. Yeah. And I'm really excited to dive into all of that today. But before we get to that, let's talk about gratitude and do our gratitude moment. And I can start.
Okay.
So I mentioned that it's December 14th and I've yet to get up my tree or any decorations. I did pull out that picture back there in my office and I have three little decorations that I bought from a store this year and took out of the bag and put up on a shelf in my living room.
So you've really decked those halls.
I just pulled down, I think, the Halloween decorations earlier, like a couple days ago, but they're all sitting on my stairs. So they had it made back in their boxes.
Wait, are the spiders still sitting on your stairs?
The spiders were the first thing that I took down, and they're sitting at the top of the stairs.
I will say that I was shocked whenever I saw the spiders come out as like Halloween decorations for you, because I have been with you when spiders have like shown up, and let me just say that was not a calming experience.
Yeah, but with my kiddo's birthday being on Halloween, when they were younger, I would always decorate to make a big deal. And now that they're like in college and really cool, maybe it's just for me, like a nostalgic thing, sort of like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
I didn't have the energy to decorate for Halloween either, but I was like, I gotta do it because I can't use time as an excuse. And so I kind of did, and I kind of didn't decorate. Like I got the spiders up, and I had a pile of decorations I put out that, when you were here, that sat on the dining room table, and it's still there. Like I never put them out.
So you're frozen in October.
I guess so. It's December 14th. I don't have any decorations really to speak of up in my house. And so I am incredibly grateful for all of my neighbors who have put up decorations outside for me to look at because it makes me feel like Christmas is actually coming. And if you are listening to this, it's like a few more days in the future. And so Christmas is like a week away at the point that this is going to be released. So it's definitely coming. But I'm really grateful for all of the people, like you sent the Christmas decorations from around New York City, and that, I look through those and I start to feel like I'm getting into the festive spirit. I look at the decorations as I drive through the neighborhood. And I went to run a couple of errands a few nights ago. And at the shopping center I was in, there were like all these lights up, and it was dark outside and just all the trees and stuff lit up. And I thought, it does kind of feel like Christmas. I guess Christmas really is here. Uh, I haven't had that signaling at home because I just haven't gotten over my overwhelm to actually get the decorations up because
Yeah.
space is a challenge for me, like spatial orientation. But I'm super grateful for all of the people that do put up decorations for other people to get to enjoy, because I really do love going around and looking at Christmas lights and getting to like borrow a little joy from the moments that they share.
Yeah, I remember this was like several years ago when I was still living in Texas, where I had like, the song, well, you may not know it because you hated this movie, but The Grinch with Jim Carrey, they had a song, Where Are You Christmas? So I remember years ago, whenever I was still living in Texas, and I was really struggling to get into the Christmas spirit. Like, I think it is very common for people because you get wrapped up in all of the things that are going
It's
on.
not like Christmas weather. There's no snow.
Well, not just that, but then you think about like the work obligations. If you have children, all of the things going on with
I'm
your
not working.
children, like
Well, I am
all of
working,
the,
I guess, but I'm not.
but I'm not. I guess what I'm saying is like there are sometimes things that are barriers that
Yeah.
like are difficult to get over. I know for myself, I have to like, because I know that music is something for me that like helps me like shift my attitude, shift my perspective. Like I have to turn music on. And like for the holidays, like I'll turn on like the Christmas music. I do hold off until after Thanksgiving because I think it would drive the people close around me crazy if I started before then.
Well, you could start it before then with me.
Okay, well,
I
next year was
I
something we can try.
I usually do turn on the Christmas music and start to listen to it, and I just really haven't much this year. I haven't been listening to a lot of music lately. I've been needing the time to be quiet, I guess.
Well, I think if I am sure you are not the only person who is in this spot. And so if you
Sure.
are there, I would say be patient with yourself, do things that are true to you and that help you get into that spirit.
What I realized was I feel like decorating for Christmas is something that's an obligation that I have to do.
Oh,
And then I was
interesting.
like,
Okay.
you know, I mean, I do. It's like I enjoy it once it's done, but it's really overwhelming. It's not about getting the stuff out, it's about figuring out where to put it. That just feels, and then what to do with all the other stuff. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So
It's like
decorating
the
is
turning of the
it's
seasons
not
because
my
it's not,
niche. Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
not
don't
like a small thing. Like you have, like it's a total
I enjoy a decorated
refresh.
space for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that other people have been doing this so that I can enjoy their decorations.
Yeah.
Right. So what's your gratitude moment?
We went to Orlando a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to go back in a couple more weeks. Do a conference, see some friends, hang out, and I had the opportunity of going to Universal for the first time, and it was a great experience. Had a wonderful time, and I got to walk in. So we took Ollie with us, and so about midday, I needed to go back to the hotel to let him out, and then come back to the hotel. And as I was walking back in, there was a worker that I was walking in with, and we were talking about like her experience of working there. She works at the Starbucks just before the gates. And so we were just kind of talking about her journey, and she was sharing kind of her experience of working there and what it's like, and how, she hopes to find like a successful career at Universal.
Oh, I love
And so it
that.
was just like really refreshing to kind of like hear someone else's perspective from a different line of work, a different place in the States. Like it was refreshing and a connection with humans. And then I was wearing this wonderful shirt that I got from this website called Fabulous Favorite Finds, and I got no less than 5 compliments throughout the day of wearing this shirt. And it said "Erase Hate," and I loved the shirt. I wore it all day, got many compliments. I got another shirt from that website as well, and it says "Celebrate whatever, however you want," and it has like all sorts of different religious and cultural icons on it. And I wore that the other night out to dinner with friends, and I got several compliments on that shirt. So I just have to plug fabulousfavoritefinds.com for some really great and unique finds, because I got lots of compliments.
Chris, thank you. Those are my designs. I made those, and I
What? You're behind Fabulous Favorite Finds? What?
I did, and that means a lot to me. Thank you for that. I can't ever sit still. So, in this journey that we've been on, I made some merch for our podcast, which is 20% off through the end of December right now. So, y'all should go check it out. But I was like, well, maybe I can make other stuff too. And, as I really settled into like, what is my niche? What is it that I want to do? It really was about, how do I put a message out there that, in a kind way, sort of snaps back, or, corrects the room a little bit, or
Yeah.
says the obvious that I feel like gets missed, and spreads a little more kindness, brings, some joy and advocacy. So there's a lot of LGBTQ supportive designs that I have, and then just some general like kindness and love, and um, things that I want to wear that
Right.
help remind me about the energy that I want to bring to the day. It means a lot to me that you would say that. I was literally getting in bed last night, and I said to Ace, like, am I just not even good at this? Like, do I suck at this? I know that, like, when you start doing something, it's not like you reach mastery level from the very beginning.
Right.
I know that cognitively, but it's really hard to remember that emotionally, because I think even with the podcast, that's one of the things that was so tough for us. Starting this year, we recorded our first episode in January. I think we released in February. And knowing that being in front of a camera or being recorded was something that already is really nerve-wracking to me, and that I really struggle with. I've had to do it for work. I've had to even have, headshots taken. I talked about having the anxiety chick in there to support me, and still I hated all of the headshots. And so why would we choose to sit down and record ourselves every week? But I think, while knowing that it was something that, was an opportunity to learn and grow, it's also something we're putting out there for people to see and like to watch us doing things that we haven't reached mastery at. And so
Yeah.
that's something that's been like, to be vulnerable is not something I do well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have been doing this. We just published our 50th episode on December 11th, and I look back on this, on like why we started, and to see our evolution into where we are today. I would say we went from something that we were kind of like passive about. Like we were interested in, but it was just kind of like we're doing this for us, and which we still
You
are,
have to
but
start somewhere, right? Like,
right,
how do you, but what's our voice? What do we want to talk about?
right.
But I love that we started without knowing all of those things, because I think that had we waited to try and answer all those questions before starting, we probably wouldn't have actually ever gotten started. Like
Well,
it would
no.
have held us back because we wouldn't have been able to figure it out.
Right. Like, because I think both of our personalities are both like, whatever we put our names on, whatever we work on, we want it to be at a certain level. And
Yeah.
we were going into something that it was not innately comfortable to us, and it was nothing that we had done before. And so the level of uncomfortability was a real thing for both of us. And I think you're right. Had we waited for that like perfect moment, we probably never would have gotten there.
No, because I think we would have been stuck in the, "Well, what do we want this to be about?" And like overthinking
Yeah.
it. And so just like pushing ourselves into, well, we know it's not going to be perfect. And I remember like talking to people and going, yeah, we have a podcast, and sort of apologizing for the podcast before they even like agreed to listen to it. And really good at noticing it when other people do that. But here I was like doing that very same thing. So we wanted to take today to share with you what are some of the things that we have learned in this journey. Ton of gratitude for all of that, for this experience. What are some of the things that we've talked about in the content that we have learned that have stuck with us over our episodes? And then just what have we learned in general from doing this? And I think for me, one of the first things, number one for me, what have I learned? And I sort of knew this cognitively, but knowing this, learning this emotionally, like being vulnerable is way harder than I
Yeah.
thought that it was
Yeah,
going to
for
be.
sure.
I mean, but it's really necessary if you're trying to change. You you sort of have to be vulnerable, because you're not going to like be an expert at things that are different than what you've always been doing. And this year has been a big shakeup for me in general. I quit my job. I, have not been working since the end of March. And that's a career I've invested 20 years and most of my waking moments in those last 20 years at. And the people that have known me over the years that were like, wait a second, you're not working? I don't even know who you are without work. And like that was a thing. I didn't know who I was without work either. Most people said to me as I was doing it, you're not going to sit still for long. And I haven't sat still, but I haven't gone back to work. I had people reaching out to me initially, like, here's this job, here's that job. And I was like, you know what? I'm terrified to tell you that I'm going to pause on that, but I'm going to pause on that. So it's been a big year of change for me, and it has felt really uncomfortable the entire year. And then to sit here in front of a microphone being recorded and talk to you about that is also really intimidating. But I am so grateful for the opportunity to take the time this year and really focus on me and who I am. And I think that this show has really helped me do that. So hopefully, as I am learning how to be vulnerable, other people that listen to this can also like benefit from that.
Yeah, I think anyone who's listened from the beginning, as I like look, because I pulled up like all of our 50 episodes and like what were they and what were we talking about. And there was a point that was like around like our 30th show, maybe, where I saw us like take this shift from talking about things and talking about the impact of those things on our lives. And I think that potentially like really change the way that we engage with each other in this forum, because we both, as we went into this, were very clear like there are certain things we do not want on the internet
Yeah.
about us. But then I feel like the more that we've done this and the more like honest and vulnerable that we've gotten, we've really shared a lot of personal things. And I think like for me going through Pride Month, where we talked about like my coming out journey,
Yeah.
your understanding of allyship, we talked about like pride parades, and we actually went to Stonewall.
Yeah.
Like to me, that was a real opening of a side of me that I probably have only shared with close friends and not really shared outwardly. And it was an
Until you put it on the internet.
correct. And then, but then I had to understand my story in a way that
Yeah.
people who, and be able to share it in a way who people who don't know me personally can also like accept it, hear it, and engage with it. And I just feel like it was, to me, that was a point where I was like, look, I have to get comfortable with doing this if I want to remain true to myself. And it's a balancing act, right? Like as we've gone through this and learning and growing and even educating ourselves on the things that we've talked about.
Yeah. As we're sitting here talking about this, what I'm realizing is vulnerability is not an attribute, it's a skill. And that's a skill that we've been learning how to build. And I think like career gen was rewarded for not being vulnerable and sometimes having the appearance of vulnerability to be human. But like, I remember a boss that I had that you and I both adore and respect, who shares your name, Chris. I remember he said to me once, like, you're just so zipped up all the time. He wasn't saying it as a criticism, but it was like, I think the context of the conversation was like he wanted to be able to help solve a problem or something.
Yeah.
But he was like, but you're just so zipped up all the time. And I was like, yeah, because like having everything handled and everything covered, like that's the value that I bring to the table. That any problem that you have, I can, fix it. Anything that other people find difficult to do, I'll find a way to make it happen. Not that it's not hard, but, and then like all the better if you can make it look easy. And so I think to years later be in this place where I'm realizing vulnerability is actually a skill that you have to build. And it's one that I wasn't really investing any time in. I was sort of ignoring the fact that I'm not very good at it. So I know in even my personal relationships, my closest relationships, it's really hard. Like to be vulnerable with my husband is sometimes really difficult. That's something that, we've talked about. I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to focus on that because I think, what are we here for but just to get to experience life with others, right?
Right.
So
Well, and I do
that's my
think like
number one.
I think that's an interesting perspective because there were a couple of things throughout the year that we did like share personally about ourselves and like our perspective on things happening in the world. And I remember like telling you and Ace, like, I want to put something out. If
Yeah.
you are not comfortable with us doing this on our platform, I'm happy to like just do it on my own. And the amount of like just support and love, like honestly, that you both like showed and shared. And I do feel like our relationships have gotten deeper than the friendships that we had before.
Yeah.
But it's also like that vulnerability, like knowing that people have your back and that they're there to support you and that we're not here to judge. We're here to like uplift, to me is something that I just don't have words to express the gratitude that the new depth of the relationship that we're all in and that we've gotten into with this podcast, which was just originally supposed to be, us recording our regular conversations and ha ha ha.
What's just so crazy about that? You say that and it reminds me the idea for this started percolating in our minds way back when my kid was in high school and I would drive on the way. We were working together. I would drive and drop them off at school on my way into work. And as an expressive, starting my day talking things out with people that I like and respect and work with is a good way for me to like really get into the day. And so we would do that personal, professional, kind of mix some of both of that in. And I remember a point during that time where I just felt to myself, I am so lucky to have Chris and to get to spend most of my mornings talking to Chris and starting my day this way. And what we have is something that's so special. And I hope it never like goes away, but I also know that things change and that I'm not going to get to start my day this way forever. I want to enjoy as much of it while I can, but I also don't want to accept that, everything is temporary. And so when we no longer had that rhythm or routine anymore, there was like a loss for me of something that, I really enjoyed and appreciated. And so the fact that years later, here we are starting a podcast with the same kind of idea in mind, that we're going to come together and have conversations. And it's not driving on the way to work where we work together, me driving, you commuting in.
Dynamics have shifted a little bit.
The conversation is just as meaningful. It
Yeah.
is even deeper. Like you said, our relationship has grown even stronger. And I'm just so lucky to have you as a part of my chosen family.
Same.
So incredible. It's incredible. All right. So I shared my number one, number, not like a ranking, but like my first,
The
kind of
first thing that came
tidbit
to your
of
mind,
learning. What about you?
I would say, in us preparing for all of the recordings, especially the later ones, we were really purposeful about bringing in content and like the whys behind we do things, and like the human motivation and things like that, the emotional resonance of things. And in the last, I would say 6 weeks, have found myself like tapping back into that knowledge and that understanding of things to help people get through things that are going on in their lives right now. It's I consider it a gift and something special. Like I file it under that gift of knowledge
Yeah.
heading, because to me it gives me another way to connect with people who maybe aren't innate to go for the emotions and rather go for the intellect. And historically, I am more of the person that will relate to people on a emotional standpoint versus an intellect. And I feel like I've added a whole other tool set to my capabilities because of what we've done, because of what you've shown me and taught me, and we've gone on this journey together. And so I will say, like, the knowledge and the understanding of like our brains and our emotions and all of the things that, like, move us from that unconscious perspective into motion has been so helpful to me, and something that I honestly never expected to come out of this experience.
And to me, I was like, well, what else were we going to talk about? I mean, it's so funny because there's so many ways that we're similar, and then there are so many ways that we are like opposite. And I think that's a part of what makes this relationship so special, this partnership so special. But like you say, you usually relate to people on the emotional level, and I am much more comfortable relating even to myself on the cognitive level. That emotional piece is something I think I've learned to get more comfortable with over time. I think I mask it a lot too. I learned to mask that. I got a lot of feedback early in my career. Like I used to be called heartless on a regular basis. Like it was a part of my MO, and I was okay with that, reliable, gonna get things done, but like not thinking about how people feel. And I remember I had a coach once who said to me, you need to start entering the conversation thinking about how you want the other person to feel when you leave, not what it is that you want to accomplish when you leave. And like it seems so obvious. And yet, like, I was like, oh, I never considered that.
Yeah.
Like, because I was just, hey, we're here to get something done, and you manage your own feelings. What are feelings? Like, I think when you're busy running from something yourself, within yourself, then it's not something that you can bring to the table for anyone else either. So what I love is that in this experience, I have had to really think a lot more about feelings and emotions. And I do care very much about how other people feel.
Absolutely.
I'm empathetic. I think I'm a kind person, and that's a value that's really important to me. But I'm also not good at being vulnerable, which is where those emotions live. So getting to have these conversations with you about these things that I would much rather stay in this intellectual space. Like, let's talk about the cognitive, because that's a lot more comfortable. And so I think you bring the balance to that for me, which I really appreciate. So let's talk a little bit about some of the episodes that we have had and some of the things that we have learned the most from. I'll start out. The first one I think is going to be obvious for you that this is on my list because we talk about it a lot. But there was one that we did on this framework of feel, pause, plan, act. And we reference that for each other a
Yep.
lot. We reference that in this house a lot. Ace and I, and the phrase emotions are signals, they're not enemies. I mean, I cannot even count how many times I have said that. And where I heard that and that clicked for me was in prep for our podcast. And as we talked about, listening to your emotions and not running from them or being afraid of them. So, like what I just talked about, emotions not being the thing that, between emotion and cognitive, I would always be more comfortable thinking about the cognitive side of things. But, that's something that I really have taken with me for the remainder of the year and used as perspective when I'm dealing with something or I start to recognize how I feel, instead of trying to run away from it, going, okay, wait, this is a signal. What's really going on here? And allowing that to help me pause and then plan and act instead of just being at the mercy of whatever reaction or shoving it down until you shove so much in that you're like a jack in the box just ready to spring and it all busts out.
Yeah,
And we
for
all have those
sure.
moments, but
Well,
I think that's my number one.
so I think I didn't know this until like I was writing out all of our episodes, and that one was the Feel Fully, Act Wisely episode,
Yeah.
which was our 20th episode, which I agree. Like we have echoed that back to each other. I myself have taken that into my personal life and used it. What I think is interesting is that episode was also kind of the catalyst which got us to what was our 40th episode, which was negotiating conflicting emotions. And I did not know, like, it was 20 episodes later, which, if you're into numbers or something, that may have some type
That's like
of
very
thing.
poetic. Yeah.
Right. But I do think it's super interesting that, like, 20 episodes later, it was the groundwork that we had done in that episode that really pushed us to maybe we should have a conversation about this, because I was having a lot of strong feelings around that time period.
Yeah.
And shared it with you, and you provided great perspective and recommendations on how to kind of process those feelings, and ultimately led to that episode.
Yeah, I think I have shared with you many times over the years that we've known each other that I feel like an moron or a conundrum or a dichotomy, or I feel like I'm constantly having two competing thoughts and feelings
Yeah.
battling within myself. And so for me, it just feels so normal to feel that way. And to take the time to like actually stop and like approach why is it that we feel that way, and to normalize it and say, this is actually a more common thing than I would realize, and think about like why is this happening, and then to really understand what's happening in the brain. That was like really fun for me. And I think has given me this sense, I guess, of peace about that, instead of feeling constantly like conflicted and being bothered by that, but to feel like I know what's going on here. Like it's not really a conflict as much as it is approaching a situation
Yeah.
from multiple perspectives. So I didn't realize that was 20 episodes later. So when I ask how many yoga classes do I have to sit in until I'm fixed, is the answer 20?
It's about 20, I would say, approximately
All
20.
Right. This is not actual real advice, guys. So
A couple other ones that really stand out for me as like being things that either I still tap into today or I still just sit back and I'm like, wow. The one where we talked about happiness and the seek for happiness is something that I have found myself, due to current circumstances in my life, is reminding people of. Like, our mindset and the way that our brains are hardwired are to protect us. And to protect us doesn't always mean to seek happiness in the situations that we're going through. And so I have found myself offering that advice a lot to people recently, to help them kind of take that control back versus just being in that autopilot mode, which I think personally has been very welcome.
Yeah.
And needed. But also, I think when we begin to better understand what we have going on and why we're so easily put into those modes, it gives us just a better understanding and allows us to be a little bit more patient and understanding of what we may be going through, to not like spiral. Not saying
Yeah.
it always works, but
Yeah.
I try.
It's so interesting that you mentioned being patient with ourselves because to be kind to myself is something that people have told me for many years. And I would just be like, okay, but I don't really understand what that means. Like, if I knew how to do it, if I understood, if I could translate that into actionable,
Yeah.
you know, things that I could do, then I would already be doing it. So, gonna need you to be a little less ambiguous and a little more like directive. Of course, I'd never said those actual words because maybe they would have. But one of the things that I have realized this year is being kind to yourself, like sometimes means understanding why you are where you are and then
Yeah.
recognizing that you have a choice you have agency of yourself. You have a choice to be wherever you want to be. So I am okay. I understand why I'm not feeling happy. I'm okay with that right now. And then I get to choose whether I want to sit in that for a little bit longer or whether I want to start feeling differently. And it sort of puts yourself back in the driver's seat as a control freak. That is totally appealing to me. But, I really do think it's empowering. And um I also think like being kind to yourself means recognizing that you're not going to start at the mastery level when you begin doing things,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of the success that you are having along the way. And I think one of the things that I have always sort of this unspoken belief that I didn't even realize I had myself that was within me is that like you're not worthy of the success until you are the best without flaw. Even though I know that that's not possible to be without flaw, which is not logical. And yet, like, is totally what I believed and how I felt. And it was just recently when actually having a conversation with Ace about something that I kind of related it to like the video game in my head that I was playing, going, okay, well, you don't start out at a mastery level skill, but that doesn't mean that you can't have the title. And I think about a month ago, was it? I don't know, time is mysterious. When I put our bios on the website and I put our titles next to our names, that I was like, oh, wait, I don't have to just want to be a podcast host. Like I am a podcast host.
Yeah.
Like I have been for, 50 episodes, but like I'm just realizing,
Yeah.
like it's not once you reach some certain mastery skill level that you get to wear the title. Like we are that
The
now.
podcast fairy doesn't appear and be like, "Ooh, you are a podcast host. Congratulations."
No, so like when people ask me what I do, it's not like, I mean, we haven't been behaving like this is just a hobby. We've been behaving like this is a job.
Yeah.
And so here we are. So I think that for me was like that's a part of being kind to yourself is realizing like stepping into what you own instead of believing that you're not worthy of it until you can be the best at it. So probably an episode that we'll tackle in the new year because I think there's more there that's percolating. One of the episodes, so my second episode that has come up for me a lot is the one where we talked about being brave and bravery. And my realization here was that being brave and feeling brave are not the same thing. Oftentimes, when you are being brave, you actually don't feel brave at all. And I think for me this year has been a lesson in that over and over and over again. There were so many there were several people who said to me when I said, I'm going to step back from my career for a while because I don't know who I am without it. And I don't think that's healthy. And they said, I'm really proud of you, or man, that's so brave. And I just thought, I don't think it's brave. Like it may be the dumbest thing I've ever done. And um, I feel like I might be throwing away everything that I gave up so much of my life for, and thinking about having a kid and all those moments that I missed. And now are those like was missing it just meaningless because, I've thrown it all away. And that's kind of a dramatic, way to feel that I've thrown it all away. But like, there are certainly many opportunities that I have decided not to step into this year. And I don't think I could have made those choices before. I do think it's been incredibly healthy for me, and I am where I need to be. But I haven't felt brave in making these decisions. I've felt terrified the
Yeah.
entire time. I think talking about that and really realizing in those times in life where I have done brave things, and yet I look back and I think even in that episode I said, I mean, was it bravery or was it ignorance? I think what I've been realizing, even since we had this conversation, is you don't feel brave when you're doing brave things.
Yeah. It's so true. Because in the moment, you're doing them because you feel like you're moved to. That's the right,
Yeah,
that's
like
what you need to do.
it's what you need to do, and it's usually creating some kind of big change, and change
Yeah,
is terrifying,
it
right?
is.
Like it's terrifying. It's very uncomfortable at the very least, but that's where change happens outside of your comfort zone.
That's
So
right.
I think that's my second biggest kind of takeaway is that being brave and feeling brave are two very different things. And that oftentimes when you're being brave, you don't feel brave at all. But you should still give yourself credit because you are being very brave.
You are. You are.
What about you? What's number two for you? Or
So
three?
number two for
Where are you at?
me, these things to me are, I think I see both a way that we have presented content, but also in the way that we have shown up for each other. So to me, there are two episodes that really like hone in for me. I feel Martin Power, which was episode 16, was like us for the first time really talking about our beliefs of aliens. We had never talked about that, if it like what we believe if aliens truly do exist. And then the second one that kind of goes into this category, which I will explain the larger connection between them all, was around Time and Space, A Journey of Discovery, our third episode. And in these two episodes, and we've talked about this and you're going to hate that I'm highlighting this, I have always known that you are wicked smart. Like someone can ask you a question, you don't know the answer to it, but you will go and you will get informed and you will come back with this is how we should move forward and this is why and all of the things. I have known that about you. But when we talk about those two episodes, to me, I felt like I was getting to learn from you. Like to me, it did not feel like two co-hosts having conversation about this. It was like Chris getting to learn from Jen all of the things when it comes to time and space. And I loved it because these were things that we've known each other for many years, but we've never really tapped into because like we've never really had to. Like it's never been up for discussion. And not that it's been out of discussion, but just it's never come up in those episodes, getting to really learn and hear your passion for it. Like you have a level of excitement that just comes through and it like just pulls me in. And I love that. I love getting to see people who are passionate about things and getting to share openly. And you expanded my mind like in a way that I never thought. I remember you sent me all these articles and I'm like, I don't think I'm understanding these. Like truly don't think I'm comprehending. And so like I threw them into Chat GPT and was like, can you help me understand these? I was understanding. I could follow the conversation, which was like, okay, good. I am capable, but it was just really great to see you shine in that moment and to get to, like I said, see you truly talk about something you were passionate about. And we got a little bit deeper in that episode about like why that interests you and like how you got into. So I really love that as like I go back and listen and watch, like those are two in my mind that just I think help take our relationship to out of this world, if you will.
Well, thank you. If you are just listening and not watching, you're probably not seeing the tears sparkle in my eyes because it's such a gift to get to see myself through your eyes because it's totally not how I see myself at all. And when I think about the two of us, I definitely think you're the smarter one of the two of us. So that's crazy for me to hear you say that. But I also think like the time and space episode is just an excuse for me to make about why I can never be on time or manage time.
Time is literally slipping out of our fingers. That is why.
But it is I think in an alternate life, like if I had an opportunity to get like a do-over and you get to like choose your own adventure and land in a different spot, I totally would be a scientist. And by the way, guys, like I also know that you have an opportunity to do a do-over wherever you're at. So like you can stop and change directions. It's certainly what I've been digging into this year. But like really leaning into more of the science stuff. I think I didn't do a lot of that because of some of the way that I grew up. And I know like you and I got to go to this amazing museum. What was the museum's name?
The Natural History
The
Museum in New York.
Natural History Museum, yes, in New York this year. And you got to watch me walk through the top floor exhibit and go, oh my God, dinosaurs really are real. And I'm never going to ask that question again. And it was a question that I really did have because of things that I was taught growing up. And like, I remember sitting there, like standing there, just trying to hold myself together and not come to tears because I felt so confused and stupid and overwhelmed and like the least smart person in the room, that something could be so obvious and yet like I didn't get it. And then remembering all of the like things that I had been taught to sort of argue with my science teacher in high school and all those conversations that we had had together, it's amazing to me, but I'm glad that I have the time and space now this year to be exploring those things because it really is like incredibly interesting. And I've thought for a long time, like neuroscience is something that I would study more. So to get to do that with you this year has been incredible.
It has been. And I think that the Natural History Museum thing, like you talked about vulnerability earlier, that is why that even came up, right? Because we were having a conversation, you said something, I thought it was a joke, so I responded back in a joking manner, and you're like, no, I'm serious. Like, did dinosaurs really exist? And I just remember being like, what? And
It
so
was
like,
all like a hoax,
right. And
but
so
that's
it
what I'd
was
been taught.
right. And so it was like and then you like shared that with me. You shared kind of your experience and why you were where you were, and then you came into the city for my birthday, which what a great birthday present for me. But then we took that opportunity to go like referencing back to that conversation, which I think we had like in the spring. I was like, we had talked about how we hadn't really been to a lot of museums when y'all had visited. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, we need to go to the Natural History Museum because like they have this entire exhibit where they talk, like where they walk you through this. And so it was like something that we got to do together, and it was like hands-on, tangible experience that we both got to have. And then the discussions that came after that. And then that's whenever we did our 36th episode, which was Explore Museums together, where we had that conversation. And I think that was like I think it was the evolution of an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, wild. I mean, and just the fact that I am sitting here talking about how I wasn't sure that dinosaurs were real, that's embarrassing. So I'm sharing that with the world. But I have a lot more empathy for, like the flat earthers and like people where you go, how could you believe that? Like, because I would put myself in one of those categories. So I've learned a lot this year.
We'll put a pin in flat earthers, and we'll come back to that in the new year. Okay.
We'll come back to. I just can understand like how you could get to a place where there is such irrefutable science and understanding and like actual facts, yet still not be sure because like I found myself in that spot. It's like what you have exposure to, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of growth for me this year on the emotional side.
It has been. It really has been.
On the cerebral side, on the like just joining the current century. It's a lot. All right. So my third and last episode that I want to share that really has been, I think, continuing to be meaningful to me is something that you and I have talked about for many years. And that is the episode we did on imposter syndrome. And I've mentioned it a couple times in this episode already, but just this concept of like, you don't have to be an expert at something in order to be like great at it and to wear the title and to be deserving of it and to be worthy of success in that area. And I think that's the trap that we so often fall into is feeling like, well, I don't deserve to own this title or to say that I belong in this space, or even I don't even deserve to want to be this because I am not an expert at it yet. And
Yeah.
it's not logical when you take yourself out of it and look at it objectively. Like, I don't think anyone that feels that way would go, oh, that's a very logical way to think, because obviously every single expert started out as a novice in order to reach their level of expertise. But it's just so different when we apply it to ourselves. So, like, I think it's kind of similar to the concept of being brave doesn't feel brave. Being brave, acting brave, and feeling brave are two different things. I think like that comes into play with imposter syndrome, like legitimately owning and being in the space that you're in
Yeah.
is different than feeling like you deserve it.
And that's not just like from a professional standpoint, that's from the personal as well. Cause I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of where our conversation originated from, was because we've worked together, we kind of know each other's like work histories, but I also think there was a level of like, we've both shared openly that we're in therapy, and how do we evolve as individuals, as human beings, as spouses, as parents, like how do we continue that journey? I do think there is a level. What I have found in having those conversations with you is how a lot of people have those like deep down thoughts,
Yeah.
but maybe we're not sharing it because we're afraid of what that may mean, and how it may come across. And so when we talk about vulnerability, like,
I think I often don't even share the thoughts with myself. They're like some of those subconscious thoughts. We talked in one of our episodes, I can't remember which one it was, about how many thoughts the brain processes in a time frame. And I wish I could recall like the stats off the top of my head. It would have been good for me to have made that connection and gone and got that little nugget before we talked about this. Maybe the producer will put it up on the screen. But I remember us talking about how it's like faster than a NASCAR car
yeah,
racing around the track. And so I think some of those thoughts, like that I'm not actively recognizing, but that I'm thinking, are absolutely like a lot of where the imposter syndrome feeds. Here we started a podcast this year, and throughout the entire year, it's been like, I don't deserve to say I am a podcaster. I don't deserve to say I have a podcast. I don't deserve to say that we're legit. I don't deserve any of these things. And I think you could hear that in the way that I would talk about it or not talk about it, but then continuing to just do it anyway. And coming to this place where, like, it's literally I'm putting our bios on the website, www.chrisandjenitm.com. Made that website ourselves, by the way. And I think it's pretty good. But like I'm sitting here putting our bios on and I'm typing our titles in, and I like have this realization of, oh my gosh, like we are podcasters.
we're not just podcasters, but we're creators.
We're
And that
creators.
that is something that I never thought I would ever step into, because I never saw
Yeah.
myself in that way.
Yeah. With like the shirts and bags and, stuff that I design on Fabulous Favorite Finds. Like I could sit here and just like poke at all of the things and go, well, I'm not really deserving to say that this is what I do. And like, I'm not an expert at this and, all these things. But like, then you're going, no, I like bought these not as a favor to you, but because I like them. And then I wore them and people are like, oh, I love that. Actually won a contest that we did this past week where they chose one of the ornaments that I designed as the top new design. And like that was really cool. um, because I was like, oh, I'm going to put this out here, but nobody's going to like it. Like, I'm not really good at this. I mean, I like it, but, and so like it to me, it's just so crazy that all of those things are still going on. And I think that they always have. It's just becoming more aware of them so
Yeah,
that then I can choose to like keep what works for me. And I also think it's like continuing to push forward, because even though you have those thoughts, you don't have to choose to believe them. Like
right.
just because they're inside your own head doesn't mean that you have to believe they're true.
But to your point, like our brains are processing so many thought so quickly that, part of, as we've discussed many times, like our brains are hardwired to protect us. So how many of those things are getting shoved to the back of the memory bank because we don't have time to process or deal with them. And so they sit back there echoing because we're not taking the time to truly process and say, well, that's not the truth. That's not actually anchored in the truth. And I do think like this last year has really given you the opportunity to examine some of those things and truly challenge where those thoughts come from. And I don't know if I don't have those thoughts or if I'm just like willfully ignorant of them and like, oh, who cares? I'm going to do it anyways. Like, I don't know. but we've talked about things and I'm like, well, to me, it's about being true to ourselves and it's about being true to what we want to put out there.
Yeah.
And if we, to me, that has been my true north in this journey. Of course, I want to put stuff out that we can be proud of and that it like makes a difference and resonates with people. But I think the self-talk is very different, which I think is something we've learned in this journey as well.
Always had a stronger sense of self-esteem, a better sense of self-confidence than I have. And that's something that I really work through. And I say that and people are like, often taken aback when I say, like, I really struggle with self-confidence and I really struggle with my self-esteem. And I've said that a couple of, like, if I was in a work setting, in one of those moments, kind of one-to-one, when I chose to be vulnerable. And the response that I would like always get back is, well, I don't see that about you because you come off as so confident. And I'm like, well, there's a difference in being confident on the logical level about the things that I know are the right things to do. Yeah. And about being confident in who I am and that I'm deserving. And that's something that I have been exploring in therapy for quite some time. It's a journey. How many lessons do I have to sit through? It's more than 20.
That's
I'll tell
more
you
than
that.
20 for sure.
It's more than 20. Even listen to a book on it.
Well, I will say, just as I feel like I've been able to see how you've blossomed and how you have really leaned into this, I will say that one of my other favorite episodes of ours is, I would say, like a special one that we did, we purposely did it, but I think it really showed Ace's chops and his producing capabilities.
Uh-huh.
Our engagement tales, love in the details. I loved it because it was like all of us getting to tell our engagement stories from our perspectives. And, whenever any of your friends get engaged, you always ask, oh, how did it happen? And like you go over the details. And it's always interesting to hear everybody's perspective of it based on, where they were in the journey
and
or
how
in the know of.
The story is.
Yes. And so I really, number one, I know that episode was tough because it was the first time that we had really recorded outside of our usual systems and tools. And so it did require
there was some learning. There was some learnings that were had during the production of that. Not all file types are compatible, and yet they may still work until they don't work.
And you don't find that out until you're trying to make them work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely some learning. And I think some learning after the fact, and like once Ace went to edit, how then he would differently set things up to record, which, of course there was learning, because the first time that you really go to do something, you're not going to be an expert, but you're still doing it. And I love that. I love that you bring that up. It was definitely one of our most watched episodes.
It was.
And I think such a beautiful story and such a wonderful gift that we could all give to ourselves to have forever. This, like, I think we learned things about each other. I think we learned things about our partners.
You don't say.
Definitely the world learned that Ace thought we were dating before I thought we were dating, and which one of us was confused. I don't know.
Well, I learned that if I said no to my proposal, I was going to get thrown out of a hot air balloon, which I'm hoping that was a joke. So No, but I do look back on that and I think the same thing. Like, what a special thing that we were able to capture and we were able
Yeah.
to share the different perspectives. And like I said, I know that that was not the easiest one to put together by any stretch of the imagination, but Ace persisted and it's like one of our most viewed, most watched shows. And I just means something special to me. And then the fact that like Ace didn't give up on it when
Yeah.
he very easily could have just been like, it didn't work. Like the file formats are not compatible and I can't get this to work correctly.
Yeah, no, it was, and to turn it all around in a tight time frame too. So really incredible, definitely a wonderful experience. I think so those I shared my three already. You shared your three, but there's one more that as you bring up the engagement one, which was a special sort of episode. There's one more really special episode we did that I just can't not talk about. And that was the conversation that we had, our interview with April and Shayna Drayson.
Yeah.
Amazing people that we got to meet and are now a part of our lives because of this interview that we did. I think Ace taking his background in journalism and his experience in how to set up an interview, which he does incredibly well, and doing the prep for us prior to that conversation made that such a successful conversation, not just for us, but for the Draysons as well. I think getting to actually that I still was in my journey in feeling like I had a right to sit in the chair and even talk about pride and LGBTQ advocacy. And
Yeah.
like, I was like, I don't even know what to call these things. Like, which combination of letters are okay for me to use? And just feeling like I was just like, everyone was going to be listening to me judging, like, did I even have a right to sit in front of the microphone for that conversation? And through your telling of your story, our conversation about allyship, that interview that we did, like, was this journey pushing me towards really stepping in to being comfortable in finding my own voice and confidence in advocacy and just standing up for what's right and realizing like that was crazy that I would feel so passionate about like how wrong people were being treated and yet feeling like I didn't deserve to speak up on their behalf. Like it's kind of a crazy way to think, but it was definitely very real.
Very real. And I do think that I think we learned a lot in that journey. So we did those Pride episodes and I think we learned a lot in
Yeah.
the not we learned about each other and about allyship and the history around Pride. But I also think in the way of like putting it on the internet in a way that people can engage with it, I think we
Yeah.
learned a lot and like in the nick of time. So that way, whenever we put that episode out, it was meaningful, it was purposeful, and it found the audience that it needed to find. April and Shayna, I appreciate them. I applaud them.
Such amazing, amazing humans. I mean,
Yes.
what they have done for the community here is incredible. They pulled off the very first historic Pride celebration in incredibly conservative communities that have a lot of the LGBTQ community living here,
Yep.
feeling oppressed. And so the fact that we were able to do that episode and be more involved in a really meaningful way in what April and Shayna have done and what they continue to do, to me, like, that's such an incredible opportunity, and I'm
Yep.
so grateful that I had the mental capacity and the time and space to show up for that, because this year would not have been as meaningful without that, and they're such amazing people, so to
Yeah.
get to have them in our lives is incredible. We're gonna go to an event that they're throwing later this evening, and I'm just so excited about it because, one, they put on amazing events. Their events company, the Drayson, is amazing. They are amazing, but they're just beautiful people. Like, they have such kind hearts and they're so passionate, and they talk about brave. Like, they are willing to put themselves out there for the
Yes.
good of others. This isn't about them. And so, like, to me, that's just been such a beautiful gift. So we would not have had that opportunity had we not started on this adventure this year. And I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Yes. So 50 episodes in, here we are. We've done it. We are stepping into this being a podcaster. We are going to Podfest, and we're excited to go get to network and learn and figure out like how we can evolve and take this Chris and Jen in the morning to the next level. We will not have a regularly planned episode next week because it's technically going to be Christmas. And so
we'll drop a little bit of a Merry Christmas message.
Yeah.
For all of you.
But do tune in before the new year because we are going to have a special episode to help get you prepped for starting a new year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about that because we're going to talk about all things like that we think about during the new year, different ways that we ourselves have approached, whether it's like setting an intention, having goals, setting a New Year's resolution. I love a good vision board. So we'll talk about all of that the next time we record, and we'll release that the last week of the year. But very excited. Thank you for coming along this ride with us. This has been an incredible year. We have been able to learn so much through this experience and through all of your feedback. And we absolutely want to continue hearing from you. We do this for ourselves, of course, but we do this for all of you. And so tell us, what do you want to hear more of? What were some of your favorite episodes? What's like one of the things that stands out most to you? What do you want to hear about that we haven't talked about yet? We'd love to hear it all. So you can drop a comment on wherever you're listening to this at, whether it's YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music or any of the other hundreds of places that our podcast is broadcast. Oh, podcast is broadcast. You can go to our socials and you can find links to all of those in whatever platform you're in or on our website. You can leave us a comment on the website, fill out the forms, submit. We read everything you guys send in. So definitely, please send us your feedback and comments. We want to hear from you. You can also text us. Chris, what's the number?
That number is 940-278-8129. We still have not received a text message on that number. So
except for from ourselves testing it.
Right. We did test it to make sure that it was really working.
It does work. It does. So, and don't forget to subscribe because that definitely helps us as well.
Right.
So if you're listening and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button because that is definitely super helpful for getting our videos out there to more people. I hope you have a really amazing holiday season. I'll post pictures if I can get some holiday decorations up. Maybe being accountable to doing that will be helpful. Hopefully before this actually gets produced, I'll have some up there. But until next time, be kind to yourself, to one another, and make it a really great week.
Bye, everyone.